Tonight, the Cedi's fairy tale rise struck by a hefty reality check, losing 13% of its value in 3 weeks after the IMF pulled the plug on government's dollar cushion.
Welcome to This Week in Ghana, our first of many bi-weekly live streams where we talk about the news of the day in Ghana. Today, as you can see, we're going to talk about the Cedi crashing 13%, a woman in the UK, from the UK that's stranded in Ghana, and she has cancer. And we will talk about Shoprite's exit from Ghana. But before we do, we'll start with introductions. I'll turn it over, ladies first, I'll turn it over to my co-host before I do my own introduction.
Good evening. Thank you for doing this partnership of our bi-weekly live streams, Joe.
Absolutely. And I thank you for agreeing to do it. I know we've been talking about this for some time, since the last time I was in Ghana, or even before that, actually. But these are always good. Yes. I always appreciate your insights.
Yes.
Yeah, I always appreciate your insights. And it's always good to collaborate. And so those of you who are new to both of us, it's Ivy Prosper and Authentic African. I'm Joe Hatagwa, the CEO of Authentic African. Our goal is to get people to visit, move, and invest in Africa. And I'm trying to connect people on the continent with people in the diaspora. And so Ivy and I met maybe 5 months back, the last time I was in Ghana. And we talked about—
But that wasn't our first time meeting.
It wasn't the first time. It wasn't our first time meeting. We met for the first time, what, 3 years ago? Maybe 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
2020 or 2021?
2021. We met for the first time in 2021. Yes, it was 2021. When I first moved to Ghana, you interviewed me at that place, Sai Wine Cafe, right?
Yes. But I even interviewed you before that. But that video never came out because I did that one for Beyond the Return. And then there were some challenges with the video and it didn't come out.
Yes, that's true. That is true. But we're here now in partnership, and we're dealing with technical difficulties. The internet is challenging us today, guys. So this is one of the challenges you see when you're going live from West Africa.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. And for those who—
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I didn't do an intro. I just said that it was great to do a bi-weekly with you. And then I didn't do an intro for your audience. Because for my audience who's here, you already know I'm Ivy Prosper, telling stories from Africa and the African diaspora. If you're new to my page, that's who I am. That's what I do. And then I am known previously for working with Ghana Tourism Authority, Year of Return, Beyond the Return, doing their social media. But I am 100% committed to my continued focus of promoting Ghana and Africa to the world. And I'm excited about this conversation. We're going to be talking about the news in Ghana.
Absolutely, yes. And I'm excited to have Ivy here because she's always a wealth of knowledge. Been living in Ghana since 2013. Right? I'm always guessing. I'm always guessing the years. It's 2013.
Well, I lived in Ghana. So Ghana 2011 to 13. So 2011, 12, 13. Then I left and came back in 2016. So now I've been here since 2016.
Double returnee, long before the rest of us got to Ghana. So Ivy has seen it all. Multiple administrations. In fact, she was there when Muhammad was the president the first time, right? So, and before him, in fact. The whole administration before that.
Yes.
So you have a lot of experience and knowledge in the country. I got there when Akufo-Addo was president. And I saw the Cedi drop pretty significantly when I got there. So for context for everybody, when I got to Ghana, it was 6 Cedis to every $1 in December of 2020 is when I first stepped foot in Ghana to live full time. I had been there the year before. By the time I left in May of 2023, the Ghana Cedi had dropped to 15 Cedis to every $1. So it less than halved in that time frame. In the recent months, We've seen the CD outperforming the dollar. Everybody was excited. Everybody reported on it. We were all excited about seeing the CD outperform the dollar. And some things have changed. And so you guys saw that in that first video. I think what we can do is we'll play a little bit of a video of, you know, some news folks speaking to the depreciation of the Ghana CD and why. And then we'll have some commentary on the other side. We'll just give it a moment so that it knows to put it on the screen. Okay, here we go. There we go. Here we go. We'll start.
Now, data from the Bank of Ghana has revealed that the Ghana cedi has depreciated by about 14.6% to the US dollar as of May 2024. The country managing partner, Deloitte Ghana, Daniel Kojo, has noted.
Sorry, guys, I realized that that was an older video and it had already depreciated last year. So it actually depreciated by 13% from that original video. So let me just play more of this original video that I started with earlier, and we'll be back in a moment. Oh, let's share that. Sorry, guys. In the meantime, I will say, you know, being here in West Africa, as Ivy was alluding to, challenges internet connectivity, and I have been struggling. I just paid for the maximum plan, and my connectivity is in and out at best. So bear with us, guys, today. This is going to be a challenge on both sides.
It is a challenge because I also had some challenges here using Telecel, my Wi-Fi, and it was completely out before we were going to get online. So then I jumped on my phone to use my MTN network on my phone. And then it's just kind of been bouncing back and forth between the two now. I see it pop up and then pop up to Telecel, then to MTN. So we'll see how it goes throughout this evening. But needless to say, the discussions about the Ghana cedi has been something that people have been talking about over the last week, especially because of the fact that it was so high and now it's gone down again. So hopefully we can get this clip to play.
Fingers crossed. Let's see how it goes.
This is also, I will not say this is bad news. It is not really the case of celebrating aggressive strengthening of the currency. I think that the depreciation we are seeing, or the correction that we are seeing, will be more important in aligning with market dynamics. If we did everything right, we expect that on an annual basis, the cedi will still depreciate by a certain percentage, and I think the cedi will find its level soon.
Tonight, we ask, how will this affect businesses? Stay with us because we'll hear from the business community. My name is Faustina Safo. Top Story, as always, is brought to you by
All right, well, it's brought to you by Telecel, the same company that Ivy's having challenges with. Well, shout out to Joy.fm. I love the Joy.fm people. I worked with a company that I was doing some work with them for a while back, so I appreciate the reporting that they do, television and news, the broader multimedia group umbrella. So shout out to those folks. So Ivy, thoughts? I mean, you like you said, you originally came 2011, left 2013, came back in 2016. So you've seen the dollar to CD ratio fluctuate over time.
Yeah. It's so interesting because 2011, $1 gave you 2 Ghana cedis in 2011. Wow. $1 was 2 Ghana cedis in 2011. So it's just interesting to see where we are now, you know, and the fluctuations over the last few years. So yeah, I've seen huge differences. And with this particular one, I know that Bloomberg, I think it was Bloomberg that reported the 13% drop of the Ghana cedi and saying that it's now the worst performing currency in the last quarter. So some of the worst performing currencies that, according to the reports by Bloomberg, include the Ethiopian birr, I think it's birr, the Chilean peso, money from Dominican Republic, Botswana, Argentina, and Ghana is at the bottom as being the worst performing in the last quarter with that 13% drop. But then at the same time, we have the Bank of Ghana trying to dispute it. I've heard some people disputing, saying, no, it's not that bad. Kind of trying to say it's an exaggeration of how much it's dropped. And they're averaging the whole year and saying that it's overall performed well. But this particular report is talking about it in the last quarter, which is a huge drop in one quarter, you know?
Absolutely. And it was a huge gain in one quarter as well, right? So, I mean, the thing is, when I look at these things, I always look at it like this. If you're going to celebrate the huge gain, then you have to agree with the huge drop, right? I mean, you can't take one and not the other. And yes, that phrase of the worst performing currency, Ghana held that title in 2023 for about 6 months straight, right? Where it just continued to decrease and decline. It doesn't mean it's the worst currency in the world, right? There are other countries that take that crown. It was just the worst performing because its value was dropping over time. And when it happened previously, I think it happened for almost 13 months straight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so it was an extended period of time. So I think that's why everybody was so excited to see it come back. But it didn't even go back to the levels it was at 2021, right? It just went back to somewhere it was in 2022, thereabouts. So in terms of the impact, I will say, I've mentioned this before. I had a housekeeper in Ghana who I paid based on a dollar rate. So when I first started working with her, I was paying her 700 cedis a month because it was 6 to 7 cedis per dollar. By the time I left, I was paying her about 1,500 cedis, right, per month. When she got a new job, they refused to pay her based on the dollar rate. They paid her the same CD rate all the way through. So she came in, and I don't know how much they were paying. I think it was like 700 cedis. And they refused to increase her pay based on the dollar rate. So although the food that she was buying was going up and the Ghana CD was depreciating, she was getting paid the same amount. But it wasn't just her. Everybody I worked with at Jumia, this was a complaint that they had. You know, they went to HR and said, will we be able to get our pay changed based on the Ghana CD fluctuation? And they were told no. I don't know how much that has changed since then, but at least for that first year when it was declining, those 13 months straight, everybody's salaries remained the same, even though the value of the Ghana CD was dropping dramatically.
Right.
And to make matters worse, there are a lot of folks who have businesses in Ghana now that are charging in dollars, like people who are charging rent in dollars, like my former landlord. So I don't know if you have any other further thoughts on that point before we move on, but I just wanted to bring that to people's attention, how it like impacts real lives of everyday people.
Yeah, it's just really interesting because I know that people who are coming with dollars to Ghana, those people are happy to see when the city is going down because they see it as their money's going to go further. And then those who live here are like, it's going up and it's going to make it more difficult, you know, with living conditions when the value keeps going up because of the fact that there's a lot of things imported into the country. And then you find people in the markets who are raising prices, and you find even people who they're not really affected by the dollar from whatever it is they do, but then they'll still join in, like group economics. They'll just join in and say, oh, okay, we're raising the prices too because of the dollar. But then also little things like, I remember a person who sells pineapples, and I was like, pineapples grow in Ghana. Why would you be saying that the dollar price is changing against the city? And you're going to use that when the pineapples are growing right here in this country from a farm in this country that you've gotten in this country. I don't get it. And the guy was like, oh, well, it's the gas, petrol. We're spending money on gas and to bring it from the farms in the eastern region to bring it to Accra. So we have to add more money because the cost of the gas is more because of the way the city is depreciating. And then when you go buy your gas, it's more expensive. And I was like, I never really thought about that, but I guess it makes sense. So it affects lives in every single way. So now it's just a matter of people have to start learning how to plan and how to budget because We know that it's not going to be stable. And then also recently, the Bank of Ghana made an announcement that they want to enforce people to stop charging dollars for things in Ghana. I don't know if you saw that announcement. Bank of Ghana now is enforcing that if you are not officially certified to be charging USD when you're operating your business in Ghana, you can be reprimanded for doing that. You're supposed to only be charging in Ghana cities. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's see what happens, because you're also not supposed to have charging for rent more than 6 months in advance, and people are still charging 2 years.
Yes.
We will see. We will see. Fingers crossed. So moving on from that story to the next. I mean, this is a tough one, and I think this speaks to so many different things. One, the ability to afford and to get the best of healthcare in our countries in West Africa, and also how people from the continent are treated in the West. I think it kind of, two stories are converging in one. And this story is specifically about an 81-year-old British citizen with cancer who's stuck in Ghana. So 7 years after the Windrush scandal came to light, it seems that some people from the Commonwealth countries who were invited by the government to live and work here in the post-war period are still having the British nationality challenge. And live and work here meaning in the UK. One woman in her 80s is suffering from a serious illness, has found herself stranded after taking a trip to see family in Ghana because of what's being described as an irregularity over her date of birth. Her name is Hannah Dankwa. And the Home Office of the UK sent a statement saying that while they do not comment on individual passport applications, a passport is only issued once all checks are satisfactorily completed. So we're going to play this video, I think, and then we'll have some commentary on the other side, and maybe we'll give you some context because the video is kind of long and it gives you some historical context, but we don't want to play like a 5-minute video, so we'll play part of it, and then we can give you some additional context in a moment. Let me share that tab instead. And here we go.
I feel really, really terrible. Really terrible. I just don't know what to do.
What do you do when you're 81 with cancer and told you can't return to the UK, a country you've called home for over 6 decades? Hannah Dankwa finds herself in that very situation with her daughter Akia.
Okay.
After what was meant to be a 2-week family holiday in Kumasi, Ghana. A city that's nearly 200 miles away from the capital Accra in the south of the country, and over 4,000 miles away from where she usually lives in North London. Almost 4 months ago, they turned up to the airport to go home and were sent away.
We were shocked. Mum has travelled from the UK to Ghana and back to the UK with the same documents that we had with us for over 40 years. There's not been a problem ever. And so when we were told she couldn't travel back, we were devastated.
Hannah Dankwa is a UK citizen. She was born here in Kumasi in 1944, which was a British colony at the time. But now she and her daughter have been stuck in a hotel room for 4 months because of a discrepancy in her documentation, one that a legal document explains and has never stopped her travelling until now. And her family are desperately trying to get her home.
My poor daughter have to take me out in the wheelchair sometimes. I have 2 knee operations. When I walk too much, it hurts. I feel for my daughter.
They've tried everything they can think of, and even the NHS wrote a letter to the Home Office confirming Hannah's chemo treatment, that she should be closely monitored and needs to be back in the UK as soon as possible.
We're left in limbo, not knowing what's happening next. We just know nothing. We just go week by week.
Back in London, I met up with Hannah's other daughter, Anna. They're supported by the charity Justice for Windrush and have been pleading with officials to fast-track a new British passport.
It's a job in itself, chasing all of these different...
I mean, I know this is really interesting, but copyright, I don't want to play the whole video all the way through. And so just one piece, and I don't have all the details on this, and forgive me for this, but from what I understand, the Commonwealth countries for a while were allowing, specifically the UK was allowing folks from the Commonwealth to travel to the UK and to gain citizenship at one point in time earlier in Ghana's, the current iteration of Ghana's, democracy. And so that was when she went under. And I do know from time to time at that time, sometimes people would use different birth dates when they would come to these countries. And so they're saying there's a discrepancy with her birth date, which probably is what that is. But the fact that she's traveled in and out of the country multiple times is what they go on to say in this video is interesting. So Ivy, your thoughts before I give my own thoughts on this.
Well, I think that this is because now we are in a time when there's a lot more scrutiny on immigrants in different countries. Like we're seeing around the world that there's a lot more scrutiny on them and on their documentation. And this is something that probably should have been taken care of a long time ago with respect to this discrepancy in birth date. I know people who have discrepancies in their birth dates in other countries. Like I have friends in Canada and in the US who, they were born on a certain date, but then when they immigrated to the new country, a mistake was made in the documentation, and then they just never corrected the documentation. And so it's not an unusual thing to see, but it's something that really should have been corrected, because if people should know that at a point in their life that this could become a problem. And now she's faced with it being a problem at a time when it's critical for her health. I think that this could take a long time, unfortunately, because people who came under that Windrush period, and for those people watching, I think the US people might not be fully aware of the Windrush, when the UK had a lot of people coming from their colonies, as you were saying earlier, to do things like jobs like nurses and, working with their military. Some of them came and fought with the British military and all that stuff. So you have people who came and served the UK, and now those same people, some of them have been sent back, because a lot of them, I've heard stories about documentation issues. There was a person I read about who traveled to Jamaica. This was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. And then she got stuck there and couldn't come back. And subsequently, I think she ended up passing away in Jamaica. And when she was there, she was like, she doesn't really know the country anymore, because she's been gone since she was a baby, because her mother was part of Windrush and took her with her to the UK. So it's a tough one. And I think what it does is it also exposes, because her big fear is the fact that she has healthcare needs. It exposes the fact that she's fearful of being in Ghana because she's afraid she's not going to get good treatment.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. And that was the 2 points that I say are converging, right? You have this issue with anti-immigrant sentiment in the West, right? If those of us in the US, we're all too familiar with that. And you're seeing it, and it's been on the rise, and it's been a discussion in the UK for quite some time. And you have advocates who are first generation or second generation, like Nigerians, for example, in the UK, advocating for reduction in all of the immigration, which, by the way, many of their doctors are of African descent and of Asian descent. Same in the United States, by the way. Same in the United States, by the way. A lot of high functioning roles in the United States are many of them are folks, and people who excel in them are many times immigrants. And so this anti-immigrant sentiment is interesting, because I think it shows an underlying bigotry in some cases, and I think also too, I think it highlights where people have issues with folks. Enemies are created of other people that are more like you than you think, so that you don't think of them as the enemies, right? So the politicians that make you think that it's the immigrants that are your enemy, so that you don't look at them, right? And so if you're always blaming the immigrants, that's where you're going to focus and not on them, right? And you won't vote them out of office, right? You're going to only focus on the immigrants to try to get them out. That's why there isn't much of an uproar on this Windrush. I didn't even know about this whole Windrush, this group and these people that are dealing with this right now until this story. And it had to take someone
you
who had a terminal illness like
I
cancer,
was right.
which
People in the U.S. don't know.
No.
Wow.
Never had
Yeah,
any
because
idea.
I've known
Never
about
had
it
an idea about this organization.
We're having a bit of a delay.
Internet. No, but you were saying you knew about it. You knew about it.
Somebody in the comments, Colin T, mentioned something about the Windrush scandal. If you want to pop that on the screen, I see Colin T.
Oh, yeah.
So the Windrush scandal was atrocious. The office also accidentally lost documents of those citizens also. It's terrible. I've heard so many stories about what happened with the Windrush people. Somebody even did a short documentary about it. So yeah, there's a whole slew of people who, some of them are even awaiting deportation, and they're like trying to find ways to fight it.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, look, I look, I wish there was a case where we didn't have to feel like we needed to go to the West, right? And that's what we're focused on, right? What Ivy and what I am focused on is trying to get people to get here so that we can get people to feel like you can live the African dream. You don't have to feel like you're living the American dream. Because this speaks to a couple of different things, right? She doesn't feel like she's going to get the adequate health care that she needs, right? And even the health service of the UK cautioned the kind of care that she's going to need. And you could tell by the way this video, the news reporter in this story, the way her daughters are talking, they do not feel like she's going to be able to get the adequate health care that she needs in Ghana. And that's really unfortunate. This is something we talk about with our parents moving back to the continent, or ourselves when we move to the continent. Where can they go to get the healthcare that they need? I have family, friends, and this is one of the things that, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I mean, of course, we want to encourage people to move to the continent, but we also know that if you have a terminal illness or something to that effect, these are things you have to take into consideration if you're deciding to move, and to make sure you have a healthcare provider that you feel can take care of your healthcare needs. But my mother's planning to move, and one of the things we've talked about is her going back to the States and seeing her primary care physician, and or traveling to another country in Africa to seek potential medical care. I had a family friend. Her mother had a collapsed lung, and she had to get airlifted to South Africa because in Sierra Leone they were not going to be able to help her recover from that collapsed lung. And so she had to get airlifted all the way to South Africa to get that done. And so that is one of the challenges. South Africa and Kenya are known as number 1 and number 2 for medical treatment, medical care on the continent. Some people dispute other countries are in there too. But, that's a problem, right? And that's something that we have to recognize and understand. That's something you have to take into consideration if this is a move that you're planning.
Right. And one of the things that I always want people to know is in Ghana, you can get some really good health care at some facilities, but you know that it's going to cost you, and also know that emergency services are not the best. And when I say emergency services, I'm not talking about the emergency room department. I'm talking about in the US, for example, and in Canada, you dial 911 to call an ambulance. You dial 911 And usually within a few minutes, an ambulance is at your door. There's even, when you call 911, you have the operator who's talking you through whatever it is, what's happening, how can we help you do something while the paramedics are on their way. And usually the paramedics get to you within 15 minutes, you know, a reasonable amount of time. You'll get paramedics who go to the scene and are able to help you. But in Ghana, the 191 emergency line, you call. And I have actually, in a previous job when I hosted a TV show on maternal health, we actually did an episode about the emergency service in Ghana. And we went to the Ghana Ambulance Service call center. And in the call center, we witnessed people would be calling, the lady would answer, you're calling 191 emergency, how can I help you? And the person's telling you someone's, you know, in dire need, we need an ambulance. And then they'll be like, the ambulances are all out. We don't have any more ambulances. So please take a taxi to take the person. Please take a private car to take the person. And you're just like, there's not enough ambulances. There's not enough ambulances to service the community. So you find a lot of people in emergency situations, they'll be in a car, in a taxi, and then they're honking their horn, beep, 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 trying to make it through traffic, to weave through traffic because they have an emergency case in their car rather than it being in an ambulance. Now, some of the private hospitals have their own private ambulance services that won't go through the 191 emergency service, which is the Ghana Health Service line. And those private ones, they also have a limited number per hospital, but you pay for that per hospital. So you have to prepare yourself. Like if you know that you live close to a certain hospital and it's a private hospital, get the phone number for their emergency service because their phone number won't be the same as the national 191 emergency service. So you should have their number ready so that if you need to call. In Ghana, we have some of the good hospitals are like the Bank Hospital, Luka Health Center, University of Ghana Medical Center, Ngochi, I think it's called, is it Ngochi Institute? That's where they were doing they do a lot of research there. We have International Maritime Hospital in Tema. We have, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a complete blank. Britannia Medical Center, also in Tema. So there's a few hospitals that are quality hospitals that you can actually get good care in Ghana. I know I missed a few. I'm just trying to name them off the top of my head. But yeah, that's a few that's off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, that's really helpful and really good insight for people to take into consideration. I had never considered that, but I mean, I guess, you know, there are private hospitals for sure. And that's an option if necessary. So those of you who are considering a move, that's something to think about. And what I'll also mention, one last thing I'll mention is what we find here, and at least in West Africa, and I see some of it in East Africa too, I've heard, is the politicians themselves do not get healthcare in the country that they are overseeing.
It's so sad.
Many of them leave to go to the UK.
Yes. Look at how the former president of Nigeria recently passed away in the UK because he went there for medical care. You know, and then even here in Ghana, the vice president recently was in the UK also for medical care. So I really was hoping that during COVID, when borders were closed, the government officials were forced to have treatment here in Ghana. And I remember some of them complaining and saying, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that it was like this. We need to do something to overhaul the system. And I was like, yes, this is going to be a positive. They're going to overhaul the system. And then nothing happened. They didn't do anything. You know, borders reopened and they went back to usual. When they need something, they fly out of the country. You know, it's an unfortunate situation because there actually are good medical centers here, but you have to pay a pretty penny for some of the places. And if you don't, and one thing I want to say is, one of the reasons why, I mean, people talk about citizenship in Ghana, and some people are like, what's the point of citizenship? Like, I've had that in my comment section before. Some people want citizenship so that they can get the rights of citizens. And one of them in the healthcare system, for example, I know somebody who had to get a procedure done at one of the hospitals here. She was quoted, I think she was quoted like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was around 10,000 Ghana cedis initially is what she was quoted. She was like, okay, I could do that. Then when they saw that she was actually carrying a foreign passport and she didn't have a Ghana passport or a Ghana card, a Ghana citizen, like Ghana card, they were like, oh, you're a foreigner. Ah, the price is different. Now as a foreigner, the price was like $30,000 or something. And it was like, what? A huge difference. And it was a major, major, major surgery that she needed to get done. But because she wasn't a citizen, the price was going to be different. Now, this is not exclusive to Ghana. So I don't want people coming in the comments section saying Ghana is ripping off people when they're not citizens. Because Canada, who gives free healthcare to its citizens, if you come to Canada and you get sick and you end up in the hospital, you pay a lot of money because you're not a citizen. And there's people who've ended up sick in Canada and then they end up paying a lot of money because they're not a citizen of the country. So if you're not a citizen, doesn't matter where you are, different countries treat you, they will treat you differently. So it's just something to keep in mind. If you decide to come to Ghana, sometimes it's a good idea to get health insurance, travel health insurance if you're traveling. Look for if there's any long-term insurance that you can get while you're in the country to help you with any medical care.
Well put. Yeah. And then if you're in the United States, healthcare is expensive no matter who you are, whether you're a citizen or not. So it just also keep that in mind. So Colin T asked a question. So what incentives could be created to help ensure medical professionals remain in Ghana? We see Ghanaian nurses recruited to come to the UK, London hospitals. That's a good question. I have some thoughts on, at least in terms of improving the medical care in the country. So as Ivy mentioned earlier, during the pandemic, borders were closed. The politicians had to use. Okay, I'm back. So the politicians.
I think he's frozen. Looks like he's frozen. Okay. I think he's frozen. I think you got frozen.
Am I back?
You're back now.
Am I back? Okay.
You're back.
As you were mentioning, you mentioned that many politicians had to use the healthcare system locally. I think that we all should think, those of us who can vote and those of us who are watching, who plan to go into politics, we should introduce bills that require, anywhere we are in the world, we should introduce bills that require politicians utilize the public system in which they are overseeing. If you are going to run for public office, your children should go to public schools in the district that you're in, and your children should go to the public hospitals. You should have babies in the public hospitals. You should get your health care in the public hospitals. I think if we do that, that completely changes the medical system. If that bill needs to be introduced, and it only is going to work if those of you who are watching that are getting into politics actually introduce a bill like that, and you guys are in the majority and can get it actually pushed through. But that's my thought process. That's what I believe.
I think that's good. That's a good idea. I think that's a great idea, because if they knew they had to use the system, they would change the system.
And that's it. And this isn't exclusive to West Africa. This is everywhere. So those of you who vote everywhere you are, something to think about. Ballot measures, those kinds of things. There are ways to introduce these kinds of things through petitions and ballot measures and things like that. Just putting that out there as an idea for those of you who may be thinking about making a change in politics, something that I would recommend that you do. So shout out to Molly McCauley. She's having she's not a very happy person in the comments today. So anyway, so moving on to the next story, there's a couple more stories that we have to go through. And this one in particular is mentioning that Ghana deploys troops to the Burkina Faso border after a deadly attack and terror threat. Now, this was a little while back. And so actually, no, sorry. Let me take that back. Sorry. Over 13,000 Ghanaians were displaced abroad. Community struggle, safe return. So this was a story where over 13,000 Ghanaians have fled to Côte d'Ivoire and other neighboring countries. There are about 12 to 14 communities in our neighboring countries holding 13,000 people. What is difficult now is how to return back to the country of Ghana. We've had an incident of shooting violence in the past 5 days. So let's play this video, a portion of this video, and then we'll come back with some commentary on the other side.
Now, we're being told now that we have over 13,000 Ghanaians who are living as refugees in Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso, correct?
Yes, it's correct.
So do you have an idea of how they're living? What's going on? Where are they being camped now? How are they faring?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. They are doing well. And in many of the camps across the Ghana-Côte d'Ivoire border, people are found there. There's a community right across the border. It is called Vonkore. That is the main camp that is hosting many of these displaced persons that have sought refuge at the Côte d'Ivoire part of the border. We have other communities along the Black Volta in that lane that are also hosting some of these displaced persons. We are told that there are about 12 or so, or 13 or so communities that are hosting these displaced persons along that border. So what we in NADMO are doing is to try to identify these communities and to see how we could access them. My regional minister did make an attempt, and he was able, with the team, RESEC, they were able to visit about 8 of such communities along the Black Volta, but they couldn't attend to all.
I think we'll leave it there for now. So I know that there was another story too that I feel like is related with the Ghana deploying troops to the Burkina border after a deadly attack and terror threat. I'm not sure if that what led to the displacement of these people. I feel like that was the issue, right? So, I mean, do you want to give some context to this story first, and then I'll give my thoughts after, actually?
So this particular story is actually a land dispute, is
Right.
what I read. I had read that these were communal clashes that happened because of some land disputes in some communities. There's a village near the Ghana-Ivory Coast border in the northern part of Ghana, and there was an escalating dispute. And so there was conflict, I guess, with the local chief regarding a piece of land. And then there was like a private developer. And then the community were saying that they did not consent to this developer coming to access this land to build something. So the people became frustrated, and then there was all kinds of uproar and upheaval, and then it ended up becoming violent. And then that's what I read is what happened. And so there's actually a total of what I read was it was like between 30 to 50,000 people who actually were displaced from their homes as a result. But it's about the 13,000 who actually went across the border to seek refuge as refugees in Ivory Coast and parts of Burkina Faso. That's what I read.
Yeah, and I mean, land disputes are interesting because it's one of those things that those of us who mean well also we're starting to see are taking part in some of these land dispute issues, right? So as we want folks to come to the continent, and that's what we are encouraging, and folks are also doing it on their own, what we're finding is that folks are not following the proper protocols, and there are challenges sometimes with people taking on land that might be in dispute. This particular case, it ended up displacing so many people, and it's so sad. I mean, up to 50,000 people, and 13,000 people have actually left the country. That is a problem. And so I hope it gets solved soon. They're looking to try to repatriate some of these folks. It looks like that's what they're working on. These people are in these camps. You know, they're living like refugees in other countries right now. And that's just not something that we want to be seeing at all in the world. But that's not something we expected to see in Ghana either. So, you know, we'll be watching this closely and keep you guys posted as we hear more. Yeah, so, okay, so moving on to the last story. One of my favorite places to shop when I first came to Ghana was a shop called Shoprite. They have exited Ghana. Now, this is a South African company, but they've decided to exit Ghana and a couple of other countries. I went to Shoprite for the first time in 2019, year of return. We went to Accra Mall, and we went to the Shoprite, and we went grocery shopping. And I'm in Sierra Leone now, having been to Sierra Leone maybe 6 times before that. I had never seen a supermarket that big, right, in West Africa. And so to me, I was shocked by it. You know, the frozen food aisle and the fresh fruit inside the grocery store and all of the things, ice cream, everything. There was everything there. And so after that, it became a staple for me. You know, every time I went to Accra Mall, or even I think it was Palace Mall, I would go to the Shoprite. And so to see that they're exiting, I think is one of those things it's a sad day. But we're gonna watch this video and we will have some commentary on the other side.
Would have a significant impact on the Ghanaian economy. Daniel Ojo-Mensah has expressed mixed reactions to the announcement that South Africa's largest grocery retailer, Shoprite Holdings, will exit Ghana. While some view the move as an opportunity to boost the consumption of locally produced goods, others fear the departure could have a significant impact on the Ghanaian economy. Daniel Ojo-Mensah has more in this report.
The retail giant said it had received a binding offer in June for its 7 stores and 1 warehouse in Ghana, with the sale described as highly probable. Challenges such as currency instability, high inflation, import duties, and dollar-denominated rents have made operations in several countries unsustainable. The company has already exited Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Madagascar, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. In Ghana, Shoprite has faced stiff competition from both local and regional players, along with operational difficulties. The company also had limited investment in its foreign branches, opting to redirect capital towards strengthening its South African presence. But to what extent will the exit impact customers?
Considering the number of people they've employed and all that, if you are not able to get a possible best alternative, it's going to affect the economy one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay, so how would they affect the economy?
Probably people will be dropped out of work, and then also supply on certain goods will be less and all that. Yeah.
Daily basis, if you look at the number of people who visit the Shoprite, to purchase things, it's a huge number. So I think that a lot of people prefer buying things from them. So if that happens, maybe they might have other alternatives, but it's even going to have an impact on the economy, because day living, it means that probably, I don't know why they want to leave, but if
so just to, there's a longer video. You guys can watch it if you want to check out more. But your thoughts on Shoprite leaving, since you've been around a while, and I know you've seen Shoprite in its full glory.
Yeah, I think that, doing business in Ghana is not easy for anyone. There's a lot of businesses that have come and gone over the years. I'm not necessarily that they've come from somewhere else, but even within the country, there's a lot of businesses that start up, then they're gone. But I think that Shoprite has lost to Malcolm, in my opinion, this is my opinion. Malcolm is another retailer here in Ghana. For those who may not know, that's a competitor of Shoprite. Malcolm also sells the same things, but Malcolm also has the extra step of having furniture and, you know, other things like that. So Shoprite is like an anchor store. So when you work in retail, in shopping centers, as I used to work in retail malls, and you always have an anchor store. You see, like, a mall will be a big place, and you have a big store on one end and another big store on the other end, big box. You know, in the US for Americans, it could be like Macy's on one end. The other end could be Nordstrom or JC Penney or something. You have these big anchor stores, and ShopRite is one of those in the mall. So they're only in Ghana. You can find them at Accra Mall, at Junction Mall, at Achimota Mall, and West Hills Mall. So it's like they're always at a mall. And their competitor, Malcolm, is not always at a mall. Yes, Malcolm is in some malls, but they're also independent. They're also independent in other places. They're within communities. They actually now also have a mini Malcolm. And it's like a Malcolm Express kind of thing. So they're reaching the market without having to always be at a mall. So if you live somewhere, you could be like, oh, I need to go buy something. And you just go to Malcolm because there's a mini Malcolm not far from you, or there's a Malcolm shop not far from you, versus going all the way to the mall. So on your way to maybe going to ShopRite, you'd be like, oh, you know what? Malcolm is right here. Let me just go there. And so you end up going there. And then Malcolm often has a lot of sales. They also have a loyalty program. They have this card that you get. I think the card is 20 Ghana cedis. And then you always get discounts. When you spend a certain amount of money, you get a discount. And then they offer on Wednesdays, I think Wednesday, they call it Market Day. And you get an extra discount when you spend a certain amount on all of your goods. So they do things that encourage people to shop there. And I found ShopRite, I didn't hear about any kind of programs like that with ShopRite. So I think that, you know, that along with the challenges of doing business in Ghana, because it is expensive doing business in Ghana with the taxes and the high rents and stuff. So I think that's also another reason why, you know, staying here was hard. I know they're leaving other African countries too, but my perspective is from the Ghana side as to what happens here.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in that video, I mean, they said the fact that people are charging rent in dollars, right, was one of the issues, the instability of the cedi that they mentioned, all reasons why other businesses should be all things that other businesses should take into consideration, right? If you're going to be doing business in the country, these are all things that you need to think about. I mean, this is a company that was multinational, that had a lot of investment. They did say that they weren't spending as much of their time focused on the local locations in Ghana. I saw that too, by the way, at a company I worked for, where they didn't have as much focus on the ground. They were a multinational company. They didn't spend too much time on the ground. They just basically made decisions from afar. And each country is different. You have to know the market very well. Malcolm knows its market. It's clear that in fact, even though I mentioned how much I liked ShopRite, most of the furniture that I had in my apartment in Ghana, if you guys watched that video, was from Malcolm. Two of my beds were from Malcolm. All of my my furniture, like my washing machine, was from Malcolm. My refrigerator was from Malcolm. You know, I bought a good number of my appliances and furniture from Malcolm because, as you mentioned, the prices were affordable. The locations were perfect. The location was, you know, right there on Labadi Beach Road. And I was living in Chado, so it was like a 5-minute drive, right, from where I was. Yeah. And the friends who live in East Legon Hills, there's a Malcolm right before you enter East Legon Hills. It's like right there. And so, yeah, you're right. The locations are everything. And they did a great job of not connecting themselves to just being at the malls, but actually having standalone locations in all those different places around Accra.
Yeah, and also I think that in understanding the market, they had a lot of local products, whereas ShopRite, most of the stuff comes from South Africa. So they're importing. They're always having to import a lot of the goods because that's one of the things that I liked about Shoprite was getting some South African products. But if you have too much of that, that can actually also hurt your business. I'll give you an example. In Canada, and people in North America will understand this one, is Walmart. Walmart is in Canada and Walmart is in the United States, and it's an American company. And so I remember when Walmart was coming to Canada for the first time, people were actually protesting. People were out with picket signs saying, we don't want this American company. They didn't want Walmart coming. But Walmart ended up coming. And the way they won over Canadians was by having made in Canada products in the Walmart stores. Even though they would have some of the American stuff, they would have a lot of stuff that was made in Canada product to say proudly Canadian, proudly made in Canada. And you see the tag on it, made in Canada. And then Canadians started to warm up. And now it's like, that's their place, as if it's a Canadian company. It's Walmart. But if Shoprite could have done more of having local products, I think they could have done a little bit better, because then they also wouldn't have spent as much money having to import their goods from South Africa all the time. They could have had, you know, a lot more made in Ghana goods alongside the South African stuff too, because it's always a novelty to get something from other African countries. But I think they should have had a healthy balance, in my opinion.
Agreed. I think I have nothing more to add on that front. I mean, I think that's it. And for those of you who are thinking about business in Ghana, right? These are all things you should be paying attention to, right? And this is partly why we wanted to do this live stream. You know, look, there are two different types of videos you see online today when it talks about moving to Africa in general, but specifically Ghana. You have both extremes. You have folks that are saying how bad it is, and then you have folks saying how great it is through rose-colored glasses. And what you have is either it deters folks from coming, or you have folks that come with the wrong impression and then end up leaving right away. And so I think what's important is that we try to make sure you guys understand the news of the day, and we make sure that it's relatable so you understand that if you plan to move, these are the things that you should be thinking about. So for those of you thinking that, you know, the news is negative, it's not. We're just making sure you understand what's happening in country. And these are just important things to know. These are important things to know. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
No, I just want to see on the screen the people in the comments, what people in the comments are saying about Shoprite. I see people saying that they shopped at Shoprite and it's a, you know, place that people like, you know.
I had those up earlier.
Then I missed it. I was busy talking.
But you know, some folks that really enjoyed Shoprite, they really liked it a lot. While I was in Ghana, I shopped at both, but Malcolm was more affordable and is a one-stop shop. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Yeah. And look, we're at the hour. I want to thank you guys all for joining. You know, we will continue to bring you these stories every other week. That's our goal. And so this was the inaugural this week in Ghana. We plan to do more of these and bring you guys the news of the day from Ghana so that you guys are aware and you're informed, right? So yeah, I want to thank everybody who's watched so far. If you haven't already, if you're from my side, head over and subscribe to Ivy Prosper on YouTube. Her link is in the description. And then, of course, those of you from Ivy's side, please come over and subscribe.
Come over and subscribe to Authentic African. Yes.
Absolutely. And follow us on all platforms. We're everywhere. You know, so you'll be able to find us. The names are easy. Ivy Prosper is easy to find. Authentic African's easy to find. So you can just search for those two and you'll find it. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you those who join regularly. Appreciate you all. And make sure, a couple ways you can support the channel, guys. Share, like, and comment. That's all free. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, I saw that Ivy put something in the comments. You can check out Ivy's link there in the comments there, the live comments. And yeah, if you want to support my channel too, you can just go in the link in all the descriptions. You'll find ways to support. But we want to thank you guys all for watching so far, all the way to the end. Come back in 2 weeks to watch us again, or come back next week. Well, I'll be here by myself on the live, and I'll be in Ghana next time I go live. So
I'll see you when you're in Ghana too.
You will, yes. We will be hanging out. And I have a video with Ivy that I recorded. It just got edited, and it will be posted in a couple of weeks. So we're gonna hear Ivy's story as to why.
I forgot all about that. When was that?
Yeah. It's coming. It was in May. It was in May when I was there in May.
I totally forgot. I totally forgot about that.
Yes, we did it at a podcast studio, Jumbo Studios.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Tato.
And then somebody was saying something to you. What was they? I did a live on my phone, and then somebody was commenting about how many subscribers you have or something. Oh yeah, that person.
The hate is real, but that's how you know you're doing something right. That's how you know you're doing something right. But yeah, so I'm excited to be sharing this. Ivy Okemute, she's from Okemute from Nigeria, is inviting you to Abuja.
Oh, thank you for the invitation.
By the way, I'm planning to go to Abuja sometime in the near future. I got to get back to Lagos first. But it's a goal of mine. I hear so many good things about Abuja. So we'll be doing live streams from Nigeria in 2026, Kenya. This is on my list, so hold me to it, guys. Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa. These are 3 countries that I want to go to, and multiple cities within those countries over the next year. So keep me to it. I need to make sure I go. I'm in Ghana and Sierra Leone 3 times a year, 4 times a year now. Ideally, I can start getting to other parts of the continent as well. So I'm going to try to do that as much as I can.
This has been great. This has been great. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you, guys. Bye.